Brock Lesnar. He's still in the news because he is Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, apparently he's bulletproof.
Literally. WWE will not be punishing Lesnar for his violation of the USADA drug testing.
I call double standard on that one.
Because he is a part-time performer for WWE.
They fired a trainer down in NXT that popped positive for a bodybuilding competition, and they fired him.
Would that be the badass Billy Gunn?
That would be.
And that was a guy with a name, too. Lesnar, apparently, has not talked about this, but I can only imagine the conversation in Titan Tower saying, Brock, we're just going to suspend you right before, but you won't have to appear on TV. No, I don't want to be suspended. Okay, you're not going to be suspended.
You're on Raw next week, buddy.
Yeah, you'll be on TV. We'll get a nice big pop in the ratings. We'll have Randy Orton shoot on you. And
then we'll fine him. We'll fine him a little bit of money just because he shot on you and you're an enhancement.
Yes. But the greatest thing about this, and he's absolutely right, Mark Hunt, if you have not heard the interview on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, I can't really repeat any of it here for his thoughts on the UFC.
He's upset.
He should be,
Yeah, but here you go with this, okay? This is what I'll say this.
Okay.
Mark Hunt went in knowing this guy's juiced up.
He did say that before the fight.
You still signed the fight, right?
He did still sign the fight.
Nothing's changed. Okay, thank you. That's all I got to say.
No, it's fine. But I'm trying to see if there's any part of this that I can really read.
The UFC, and that's about it.
Okay. Here's some quotes from it. I'll just make this quick. Look at him. There's no way that guy makes 265 pounds. He's sticking blank in his blank like the rest of those cheaters. The thing about that is he's sitting, this is a fair place. Well, it's not fair. These guys are cheating. They should be in court for it. They should lose all their money if they're cheating, because if I die in there, who's going to look after my family? That's corrupt bleep, man. These bleep should be penalized hard. Dirty, bleeping, cheating, bleeps. So Mark Hunt, not happy. And I've seen this kind of thrown around too. The PED cheater, if a PED user beats someone and that opponent dies in the octagon. And this is one of those things where people have been just kind of throwing it out there like, oh yeah, that would happen. We've seen the sport is not what it used to be, number one. So there's protection for these fighters in place. But I do understand where they're coming from. But the problem is you have to, when you sign away, you're going in there, you're going to get beat up. You have to take into account that this kind of stuff could happen. There are ways to, the UFC has to get on top of this more, that fighters don't fight while on the drugs and pop after. This is obviously the biggest example of it with the biggest fighter and the biggest thing. But Sean, what's your take on all that? Because that's a very interesting conversation to have.
But, here's my thing, okay? Mm-hmm. I think, some of this PED usage thing gets put to where, these guys are, roided out of their head. They're going to go in there and snap on somebody. But it's not like
barroom
brawl. No. You still got to land the punches. At one point, I thought Hunt was going to win the fight.
Yeah.
He had him rocked a little bit, but he didn't count. And look, I understand whatever you want to say, he's juiced up, this and that. But it's not like the guy was in there, he's got to weigh in at a certain weight. He's got to, he does the same thing you do. As far as, he might be a little bit bigger, but I understand what they mean by the PED usage and things like that. But at the same time, ultimately, you have to weigh in. You're the same weight. Look what happened with Cyborg.
Yeah.
Now, that guy wasn't on PEDs. He put a knee through the guy's skull.
Yeah.
So, everybody looks at these PEDs and are like, not the punches. Lesnar was landing punches on Hunt's forehead, and not one of them crushed his skull.
No, it's these guys are taking this to a point. They're clearing out PED users as fast as they can. At least the UFC's done this.
Yeah.
Because, man, everybody was on everything. You go a couple years back at this point. Like, so you have to take into account, like, that this process isn't perfect yet. And I get cheater's a cheater. Chad Mendes gets suspended 2 years. Lesnar's never going to fight again. Jones is suspended for 2 years, likely. Even more maybe at this point. So there are penalties and there are things in place. And it seemed like everybody was popping for everything in the past month. So I understand Mark Hunt's frustration, but he has to realize, excuse me, that if you go off like this, it comes off kind of crazy. And I'm all for fighters union and everything coming together, but that's a long way away too. So if he wants to go off and say all this stuff, go ahead. But when you say bleep your bleep company and you're a fighter for the UFC, like you can't just go around doing that. Like it's the new owners of this company are not going to like it. So, I mean, he's fought long enough where he doesn't have to worry about this kind of stuff, and he's trying to say it for these other fighters, but man, like this Legend situation has escalated so much, and Brock on the other hand is, all right, and it seems like he's just going to show up on Monday. Are they the WWE going to talk about it? Probably not. So this is one of those things that's going to be done.
Well, the crowd's going to give it to him, I think.
Oh yeah, I think so. But he's Brock Lesnar, and that's the argument that's been used for probably the reason why he's not going to get suspended over this.
And plus, it's pro wrestling. They want the larger-than-life people. That's what they want.
There's courtroom documents to explain that one back in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. So this whole situation, hopefully it gets better. Hopefully the PED usage will eventually get better and better and better. Hell, Russia's had state-sponsored doping. At least we're not at this point. All right? This isn't Drago and Rocky IV getting shot up in a basement attached to whole machines. These are guys trying to go around the system, and the system's catching them. This is what it's supposed to do. So eventually more and more will get better and better at this, and you won't eliminate cheating completely, but you'll try to take as much away as it can. Because people always go around this. The system will never catch up to the people.
Here's my question, though, too, about the Lesnar thing, okay?
Sure.
Supposedly he took, 4 tests and they were clean?
Yeah.
And then he popped on the last 2 that he took?
Yep.
So what? I mean, that right there tells you he probably wasn't about to make weight. So, I mean, he took the fight, a month out?
Yeah.
And I know the last time I saw him on WWE, which was, I think, 2-3 weeks before that, he was well over probably 3.
Yeah. So, it's one of these things where, like, we saw it coming. We didn't want to believe it. But now this is the world we live in. So, we have to be able to, deal with it at this point. It's such a weird conversation to have, and we'll talk about it more.
And the other thing is this. I mean, this is what's going to happen in the UFC, okay? They're going to take PEDs out of it, okay?
They're going to try their best, yeah.
Well, okay, they're going to try. But even as they do, you're going to have fighters getting injured more.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to come back as quickly and things like that. So then what are you going to have?
And then you have these things where who's to judge what is safe and what is not safe? Some of these things are over the counter in GNC. Who's the judge? Like, USADA can be this judge, jury, and executioner on all this. But some guys will have medical clearances on stuff. So this process will never be perfect.
No, it won't. And then, I mean, my whole thing is once you clean it out and then you got people getting injured, and then most of the time people take PEDs for recovery.
Yeah.
Not for much else, because, look, it's not human for these guys to go out here, do the fighting that they do, and then be ready to fight 30 days later.
Yeah.
That's not, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody's on PEDs, don't get me wrong, but you have to start looking at some of this stuff when they're fighting 30, 60 days later. after some of these guys that have been in some of these wars. I mean, bodies don't heal like that.
It's a crazy situation. And when you look at baseball and you look at other sports, either everyone's on PEDs or no one's on PEDs. That's the way you have to play it. And you can say no one's on PEDs, but people will always try to circumvent the system, and you always catch people. Mm-hmm. This is like the system will never be 100% foolproof, and it will never be 100% correct either.
Yeah, because you look for the next thing that can beat the test.
Yeah, you look for the next thing that can beat
until they catch that, and then you're already looking for the next thing.
And what makes this certain drug better than this certain drug? If they're like this close and at a higher level than this, like it's one of many problems that USADA and UFC have to deal with right now, and Mark Hunt unloading does not make it any better. Supposedly, Jeff Nowitzki of the UFC talked to him, and they had a good conversation about it. But man, who knows what the future is of Hunt? We probably know what the future is of Lesnar, and we'll see the next big name to get popped, because there's going to be another name.